Hey everyone, it's Eric with FirearmTutorials.com, and today I'm going to talk about shotgun loads. You'll see I've got 6 different shotgun shells in front of me. All of them are a little different, and I'm going to give you a good idea of the difference between them and when you should use a certain type over another. So starting on the left here, I've got a 20 gauge slug. And just to give you an idea of the difference between 20 and 12, here is, the difference, the 12 gauge on the left and the 20 gauge on the right. So that gives you an idea of how much bigger the 12 is over the 20. And as far as the difference in shooting the two of them, you're going to get a noticeable reduction in recoil by using the 20 gauge. And not necessarily a huge decrease in effectiveness. So that's something to think about. I like shooting 20 gauge a lot, especially slugs. The only downside, the 20 gauge is usually a little bit harder to find. You can usually go into any Walmart and find 12 gauge ammo, but the 20 gauge is going to be a little more scarce. The slugs I actually ordered in bulk. I think I got 250 of them or 500 of them. So I've been kind of shooting those for the last 6 months or so, and I've about run out. So this is one of the last few of them. So then next we've got the Buckshot. So you'll see it's a little bit longer, and obviously the Buckshot is going to have the actual pellets in it. So the slug, this is basically what's inside the slug. I cut it open here and extracted the slug. So this is a pretty heavy piece of lead here, and you see it's got the ridges on it that rifle it. So as it comes out of the barrel, the wind will kind of turn it so that it maintains its accuracy. And you can shoot slugs, out to 100 yards or even more with very good accuracy. So you'll usually get a little more felt recoil out of the slugs versus the Buckshot or the Birdshot, but it's kind of the cost of doing business. So anyways, back to the Buckshot. When you buy this, see, most of them say on here, so this is a 2 3/4 inch shell. Okay, 9 pellets, so that's what the 9P is. And then the 2070, I think, is something to do with the load rating. I'm not 100% sure on that. So, that's one thing you want to look at is the number of pellets, and then there's usually a rating on here as far as the, 00 buck, which I call double aught buck, single aught buck, and then you have, it goes smaller from there. So, this is a pretty good size. These are, definitely going to do some damage. Throwing 9 pellets out each time you pull the trigger is going to be pretty effective no matter what you're doing with it. So that's the 20 gauge. And like I said, it's fun to shoot. I can shoot a lot more of those without my shoulder getting sore than with the 12 gauge. So moving on to the 12 gauge here, this is mainly for skeet shooting. So this you see it says Skeet Gold. So this is number 9 shot, which is very, 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 very small. You'll see in the top here, there's a tiny hole where they close the shell. A lot of times with shot this small, give it a good tap, usually one of those will come out of there. Of course, it never does it when I want it to, but it will when I won't. The only negative thing with that is sometimes these will come out of there and then they'll get stuck in the action of your shotgun, and they can be a real pain. But they're fun to shoot and they're really cheap. I think I got, bought these in like a pack of 500 or something. So if you're going to go out and do a lot of skeet shooting, that's definitely the way to go. And you'll notice here that the size of the brass is a lot smaller than the others, and that has to do with the amount of powder that's in here. So when you look at the inside of these things, here's one where I cut the top off, and the main components of here, this is called the wad, and this is just plastic. So you'll see that the actual shot will go down in here, and then it's sealed up by the top of this. So underneath that, this is kind of a barrier between the actual shot and the gunpowder. So between here and the actual primer, which you see down in there, is gonna hold the powder. So you'll notice a lot of times, you know, with slugs especially, slugs also have a wad in them. So if you're shooting a paper target, you'll see where the slug went through, and then you'll see a lot of times a second hole, and that's usually the wad that's shot out of the shell and hits the paper as well. If you're shooting further away, a lot of times the wad doesn't make it that far. Or if you're, you know, shooting at a hard target, a lot of times you don't really see any evidence of the wad coming through, but that's basically how those work. So that's the skeet shooting, and there's a lot of these pellets in here. I'm talking probably at least 50 or 60, maybe even more. So what we've got left here is the buckshot. So you'll see they've all got the shot through the top. This is a 3-inch one. It's actually got my girlfriend's name on it. That's a long story. But what happens with this is kind of the same deal. Let's see if we can read it on here. Okay, so this says 12 pellets, and you see 0, buck. So this is double-aught buck, 12 pellets, and these are Noble Sport. I think these were marketed as like police grade, I don't know, some nonsense. Then this is a very similar round. I don't think this, let's see, okay, so this is 9 pellets as well. So you've got 12 pellets in here and 9 out of this. Now they call this low recoil. This comes from Rio. There's a couple different models. There's a low recoil and there's a standard recoil. I honestly can't really tell the difference between the two of them. If you look at the amount of brass here, there's definitely a lot of brass for such a low recoil load. And the powders will be a little different. So on this this load here, if I were to cut it open, you'd see this powder is real fine. It's still a flake powder. It's not a ball powder, but it's really fine. To whereas in these Skeet ones, it's a definitive like flake powder. So back to the original story I was telling you as to why this has her name on it. We made a bet for something, I don't even remember what it was, and then I told her if she lost, she would have to fire my Sega 12 with 5 of these shells in there. So that's why I wrote her name on these and said that, you know, these are yours and you're going to shoot them. So we still haven't got to that part, and I don't know if we actually ever will. So that's the deal with that. You know, as far as buying these things, it's usually better to buy them in bulk. The good thing I like about shooting these, especially the 12 gauge buckshot, is it's not something where you're usually going to go out and shoot, you know, 100 or 200 of these like you would with, you know, handgun or rifle calibers, just because, you know, the recoil on these is pretty steep, especially depending on what you're shooting it in. So it's kind of a good way to just get out and, you know, blow 20, 30 rounds through and, you know, call it a day, which is what I usually do. But yeah, just try and buy them in bulk. Like I said, I buy these, you know, at least 100, 200, or 500 at a time, and usually get a good price on them, especially these Rio ones, these Noble ones. Like I said, if you're going to do any Skeet shooting, these are great for that. These are the Skeet Gold from, I think these are Noble as well. Yeah, Noble Sport you see on there. So, and you can reload these. I don't reload shotgun shells just because I don't shoot them enough. But, you know, you always have that option as well. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. And thanks for watching.